Alan, how are we doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Man, legendary coach here, right? Been with Long Beach forever, done some really amazing stuff. National team as well. Right now, you're doing your own thing with Champions Unlimited. Introduce yourself. Tell the people what you're about, and where you're at, and what you're doing. What are your next steps in volleyball?
Yeah, when you look back and it goes by in a hurry. To think back that I've been doing 22 seasons as the head coach at Long Beach State. I took those 4 years off to coach the London Olympic team, but I was also at Long Beach for 5 years before that. So it's over 30 years of coaching and being a head coach. And now, as I step away from the sidelines, the NCAA, I'm certainly not stepping away from volleyball, helping all sorts of different parts of it. But one of the things that I've been doing for years is camps and clinics and speaking. And the one thing that I kind of got in a kind of a bad habit about was I kind of was going to the same spots with the same connections, just because there was no way really to get to me. I didn't really provide an avenue to get to me. So really my son Aiden and a good friend of mine, Marcel, really pushed, hey, let's put this together a little bit more as a business. Let's get it out there. The product's good, people want it. So let's get it out there. So we did, and it kind of blew up last year and had a whole bunch of stops all over the world, actually. And this year the calendar is pretty much full for all of 26. And yeah, exciting stuff. I get the chance to do what I really love to do, and that is share the lessons learned. When you're a head coach, especially in college, especially these days, you're more of a CEO at times. You get to coach the least amount of your job. So this gets me back in touch with the game and gives me the opportunity to give back, gets me in some gyms, and then I get to do some speaking about leadership and culture and share some of those ideas, and that's been fun.
How's that transition from, like, I mean, you mentioned, right, Long Beach for so long,
Yeah.
national team. Is there like different philosophies? Do you think the philosophy that you've been teaching is pretty universal amongst all levels, right? Whether that's like a 12-year-old in the gym, or a 25-year-old, right? You got Maddie or whoever
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of things that are, when you're talking about uh, leadership and you're talking about building a culture and communication and building trust and building daily habits and goal setting and um, volleyball IQ and watching video and all those things. Yeah, those things, you can hit all age groups. But as far as the what you're teaching in the gym, obviously there's some things that are a little different between those 12-year-olds and those 20-year-olds.
Going into Champions Unlimited, who are you really hitting the youth? Are you hitting like pro teams? You said you kind of were a little bit all over the world. Are
Yeah.
you hitting teams that are like kind of like club teams in Europe and
Yeah,
things
a
like
little bit
that?
of everything actually. So we've primarily the biggest market will always going to be the American club scene, high school scene,
Hmm.
right? And then there's two different ways to do camps. As far as you can do the one which is fine. That is it's a little bit of an all skills. Everyone signs up, put them into groups, teach them serving, blocking, whatever it might be.
Love that.
The other one is more of a high performance model where you're coming into a club that there's already established teams, and now you're really pushing it because you have all the positions, you're not missing middles, you're not missing, you don't have all setters or something. And you can really work on some things that maybe they're not used to, maybe pushing some medium system or tempo offense or swing blocking or whatever it might be. A lot of area 6 big work, things that maybe they're not doing a lot in their club. And that's the exciting thing when you get a chance to be in those groups, with those groups, and then you can leave a club with kind of a template of how to teach it. So what we do is we get in there before the camp, and we meet with the coaches of the club and we explain to them everything we're going to do, let them ask some questions, and then they're in there getting their hands dirty with working on it and getting to run the drills and use the language. And when you leave, there's the follow-up meeting. And now you hopefully, they're not going to take everything you did and just scrap whatever they did and use every piece of it. But there's some really good nuggets in there. And we kind of do it a little bit a la carte, where the club director or the club, owner or team or whatever head coach of the team kind of says, these are some of the areas we're really looking for. Because you can't, if you're there for 2 to 4 sessions, you're not going to revamp the entire thing. So that's what we've kind of done, and we've had really good feedback, and it's really fun. And I think that one of the things that you like is that when you do it once and they immediately sign up for the next year because they want to get you back in the gym, things are going pretty well. I got some pretty good people working with me. Uh, you know, uh, Tim Johnson, who coaches at Santiago College in California, and then Paula Weishoff, one of the all-time great U.S. players, is with us. And I got some other coaches that are helping us on the road, and Cam Green from Maricosta and SC, and he was also at Long Beach for a little bit, and Roger Peluso, who's now coaching at Queens, who was at George Mason, and there's a few other ones we're going to add along the way. But I think the staff is so experienced and they're so good at explaining what we do that I think they like the personalities that are coming through too. It's something new and refreshing.
I kind of like that you said it's like a la carte. Like one shoe doesn't fit all. You're trying to modify it to that club or that team's need.
Yeah.
I think that's super important when especially you go into these clinics and you're learning and you're trying to figure out what's best for your system. Like you mentioned, medium system.
Well,
People, like there's some coaches that have been coaching for 10 years that don't even know that term,
that's right.
right? And like bringing that into their vocabulary and different visual things in their visual library that they can use is completely awesome
Yeah, I
and
think one
great.
thing I'd add to that is that I think we all get in a habit as coaches is that you become kind of a byproduct of whoever you played for or coached with. And we get in our own echo chambers, and it's fine. Sometimes your echo chamber is really good. You happen to be around some really good people. However, you have to continue to be a lifelong learner. We all are, all of us. I certainly am. And we want to share that. There's a million ways to play this game. I know a lot of people are going to tell you that there's this way only or that way only, and that's just not true. Especially when you watch, the international game of how many different styles and systems of volleyball are being played. But the game is super healthy worldwide right now. The brand is great. Doesn't matter if you're watching the women's game or the men's game internationally. The club scenes, the national teams, the brand of volleyball is pretty spectacular.
So going into that, like what do you think maybe the youth scene can use more of like term wise or like the learning capabilities that maybe exist in the collegiate scene at Long Beach or on the
Yeah.
men's side? You're like you guys are in the strongest conference for men's.
Well, yeah, I think that I think the game is evolving so fast. The athletes are significantly better. I think the coaches have kind of taken the harnesses off. For so many years, all I ever heard was, what you can't do. No rule. No, this is the rule. No, no, no. You can't do this. You can't do that. The men can do this. The women can do this. The men can't do this. The women can't do this. And I just don't believe in that. I just think we should take the best athletes we possibly can find, and we should train them up. And then we should take the people that are at the lower levels learning this game, and try to bring out the how much athleticism we can bring out of them. And our job as coaches is to unlock them, not lock them. So locking meaning no, 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 and yes, 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 and see if you can get them out on the court where they're not playing wild, don't get me wrong, but they're reading the game for themselves, and they're totally freed up and they're totally in the moment. They're not worried about disappointing someone or someone screaming at them from the sideline or they broke some hard, fast rule. Well, you got to stand on this X. That's not where the game is. The game is too fast, too athletic for that style of coaching. So that's what's fun is to share some of that and then to share some of the ideas about how to watch themselves on video, how to mimic their favorite college player, international player. What are they looking for? And how to get extra reps at things, how important that is, that you're really, it's not that you're not good enough to play this game, you just don't have enough reps yet to play this game. Like I use golf all the time. I'm an absolutely horrible golfer. I love to golf, but I'm a horrible golfer because I put all my time in the gym, not on the golf course, right? But I'd like to believe if I had clubs in the back of my car every night and stopped at the range, I could probably get better faster than I am. That's just getting that across because you get a lot of, especially on the guy side, there's a lot of crossover athletes. You get people that were used to be baseball or used to be volleyball, I mean basketball, now they're volleyball, and they were maybe pretty good athletes and they've been good at everything they've done. And then they get humbled in this very technical sport and they get frustrated with they want to be good right away. And it's just not going to happen like that. So it's parts of the game, maybe, or you're going to be okay. But if you're going to set and you're going to pass and you're going to get into those really technical things, you want to jump serve, you're going to have to spend some time with it. And you're just hours away. That's what it is.
I'm really liking how you're really describing everything from like, it's you say passing, setting, hitting is technical because it is like you can't. Athletes are awesome, but like you got to get into the nitty gritty of the technique of actually knowing how to put a ball up, in the center of the court and dishing something out to swing. What like was coaching your goal? Was it something that like you're like, all right, I'm gonna start doing this and I'm dedicated, or was it something that kind of like trickled into your life?
Well, it didn't trickle into my life. I grew up in a family that my dad was a coach of soccer. My parents immigrated from Belfast in Northern Ireland, and I had two older brothers, and it was soccer, 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 soccer. And I knew one thing is I didn't want to coach. watching,
Wow, you 180.
watching what he had to deal with, like just the stuff that would happen away from the pitch, the phone calls late at night and just the frustrations and all the extra things that he would put in. I'm like, man, why does he do this? And then you realize later on, obviously I realize now why he did it, but I tried to not get into it and then got sucked into it. And then when I got sucked into it, you just fall in love with the idea that you can bring people along, you can move them closer to their goals. And there's this moment as a coach, I think, especially when you're younger, the first couple of times that you really notice in a kid's eyes, like he's starting to get it.
That light bulb effect.
Yeah, it's like you want more of that, right? It's
Hmm.
like, yeah, it's working, right? I want more of this. And then there's it also, as you get older, it allows you to continue to stay in the competitive side of you. You have to channel a little differently, but you get to stay competitive, and I think that keeps you young.
What's something that like as a young coach that like you really enjoyed that you've kept that hasn't changed, right? Because like you said, like you're learning as the time comes, right?
Yeah.
Like things progress, things come in and you got to kind of adjust. What's something that's like stuck in your roots that worked from day one?
Well, I'm a pretty big believer that your attitude and your effort, your communication is everyone hears that all the time is controllable, right? So if you apply that to the parts of the game, then uh, playing as hard as you can, especially on the defensive side of the game, covering balls, working hard in transition, right? Those type of things. I learned from a young age that those things aren't really. Those things are not difficult. They're just a choice. They're just work. So if we can get our teams on things that aren't that hard, they're just work, that those are non-negotiable. We're going to be the best we can be at these. Then the other things are going to come a lot easier. So I've always believed that we call it at Long Beach, we call it carrying our own luggage. The guys have to be able to carry their own luggage. They have to play as hard as they can. They have to communicate. They have to have good energy on the court. They take care of all those things that the coaches don't have to do to coach them kind of quote unquote like a captain. They get to actually coach them and train them and talk to them and challenge them and critique them and give them feedback instead of motivating all the time. And from a very young age, I think that most of my teams, I spent very, very little time trying to actually motivate them to play hard because it was always the baseline of what we did. So I think starting there was a good point to start at for me.
So you're kind of talking about like a standard, right? The standard is there, and that's actually a pretty good position to be. That you'd never like. I mean, you'd probably say what the standard is, but you didn't
Yeah.
have to like force these guys to be like, this is what the standard is. They're just kind of there. That's really nice. You had some incredible players, right? National title, like just very recently,
Yep.
player of the year. What is that like? People always say that the European scene's a little bit different. Is there anything that from all the international guys that you brought in and other teams are bringing in,
Yep.
is there something that like you see that they do that maybe the Americans might need a little bit of help, and vice versa? Do the Americans do something that are very, very good that the international guys that you're like, okay, this is something that we're going to need to work at?
Yeah, definitely. I think that they both of them have their own challenges, and they're both need some of both, so you can learn from both. But I think that what we have to recognize and give credit to is that a lot of the European players that come over here, it's not that they're a better athlete or more talented physically. Maybe sometimes they are. There's some of them that are spectacular, don't get me wrong. But I'm kind of stereotyping the whole group now across the country of international players. Um, it's that they're just so much further ahead, you know. So they've been playing volleyball for significantly more time.
So you
They've
think is it a part of it? Sorry, is it you think a part of the touches part that
Oh,
you mentioned
absolutely.
earlier?
Yeah, I think that they play at a younger age. Think about it. You're playing in some of these countries around the world that basketball is really not a big deal. There is no American football and there's no baseball. So you're dealing with soccer and maybe a little bit of basketball here and there, but you're dealing with soccer. Um, and everybody else is playing volleyball. You know, their parents might have played volleyball. They're playing in a local club team that also has a professional team. So since they were kids, they've been going to games. You know, our players are going to watch the NFL or Major League Baseball or NBA or their local college teams, and it's just not the same. You know, you talk to a European kid about, hey, what do you want to do 5 years from now? And he'll tell you what league and what team he wants to play for you.
Hmm.
And a lot of times you ask the American kids, and they'll tell you, I want to play in Europe, you know, but they can't get really into the nitty gritty because they haven't spent that much time in it. But there's also a benefit to it. Don't get me wrong. The American kids have been playing football and, you know, basketball and baseball and all these things. It does help them. They do catch up. I mean, you look at our national team, and we don't have a professional league. In men's volleyball collegiately is not at the size we'd like it to
Hmm.
be. So it's not like we have this huge factory. It's not like the women's side where, you know, 300 plus Division 1
Yeah.
schools. But yet we can figure out on the world stage to play for medals in the world championships and VNL and the Olympic games. And so obviously they get there, but at the younger ages, from that 14 through, you know, 20 years old, the European players are just way further along. The game they play at a higher level on a regular basis because a lot of the American players are playing in club, and there might be one or two of them that are high level on their team playing in a tournament on the weekend against four other teams on that day that has one or two other players that you just don't get the same
Hmm.
competition where
Hmm.
they don't do that. They don't do the whole club scene. And you're playing for your local club. The team's fairly good or stacked, or you're playing for your country and you're playing against older guys all the time because you're playing in men's leagues or you know, get basically against professionals at times. So we it takes a while for the American player to catch up. So understanding that when you go in, you're going to deal with a lot of times the high level European player coming over with some of those frustrations of why doesn't he get that, or
Hmm.
why do we do what we do with this season so long, right? We start in August, we don't finish till May, and we don't even compete really in the fall, and like things that they don't understand. And then on the flip side of that, the things that they love though is the whole university experience and playing for a team and playing with guys their age and living in the dorms and traveling and having other teams on campus and just that just that college experience. And you start to see them as the days and weeks go on, or maybe even to the years of the personality shift a little bit of really enjoying the moment a little bit, that they know it's kind of special and what they're getting is unique.
You were talking about motivation. You have such a successful career, right? Like you hit all the boxes I think any coach in the country would want to hit. What keeps you motivated and like you said, I know you love it, but like what really is like I still want to grow this game. I still want to push
Yeah.
it to you know its full threshold.
Well, I think that kind of when you're in the middle of it all, you don't, if you're really trying to get better and you're trying to push your team, and when I say push your team, I'm talking about pushing the athletic directors and pushing the conference and pushing the NCAA for more for men's volleyball. You don't really spend a lot of time sitting back and thinking about maybe the things that you've been fortunate enough to accomplish, right? It's not until, you know, just a couple of weeks ago when I announced that I was going to step away at Long Beach that you get hit with all of the statistics and accolades all at one time. And you realize, like, one, you realize you've been doing it a while when you start to hear some of them. But, but I think that really what it is that that desire goes all the way back from when you were a player. You know, I remember playing at Long Beach State and uh, played on some really good teams. Played in the national championship game a couple of times, and we won. We won the '91 national championship. Well, the reason why I bring that up is after the game is over, there's this really special thing that happens from about right when the ball drops to about when the bus takes off for the hotel. This euphoric feeling, right? This brotherhood that happens, and you never hear anybody in that situation say, "Hey, we worked so hard this year, but we probably worked about 10% too hard. We could have probably backed off a little bit and it still would have won." You always hear the opposite of that, right? You hear, it was all worth it. We would do it all over again and more for this feeling. And the team is connected forever, right? That moment in time, they're connected. And then you start to coach and you realize that you want more of that for your players. You want everyone to experience that moment.
Mm.
That's really right what it all comes. It's not just the win or the ring that you get. It's the journey there and completing it, getting to the last game, being the only team standing at the very end of the season, and what it does for a unit to commit to something bigger than yourself. So you want to share that. You want to push that along. And I also happen to believe that the game is just absolutely spectacular. The athletes that are playing it. And when you come and watch a game, and you come in person, sit courtside and watch a volleyball game, many people want to come back after they see it in person. I just think it's kind of a shame that it's not out there enough in the mainstream. It doesn't get enough eyeballs on it. And that's the big thing I was pushing the NCAA the whole time I was at Long Beach State is that, I remember once we played a game in the 22 Final Four, and we played UCLA at UCLA, and we were down 0-2 and came back and won in 5. And it was a great. Well, for us, it was a great competition. I know there's the winner and the loser side of that because I've been on both of it. I don't mean it like that. What I mean is that it needed to be seen, and it was on NCAA.com instead of ESPN. And it just, I think the whole community, the volleyball community, and definitely other people who might watch volleyball, who normally don't watch volleyball because it's the NCAA Final Four, missed the opportunity to see this epic comeback. And I didn't, so I kind of pushed hard after that game that they missed the mark. And that's what I want to see more of. I just want to see more people see it, to appreciate it. And I don't care if it's what division, and I don't care if it's the men's, the women's, just volleyball out there. Let people appreciate the athletes that are playing this game.
What's one piece of advice you have received that was that like light bulb effect that you were like, oh wow, like whether if it was you discovering it or yeah, or like someone else giving you a piece of advice
You're talking mainly from coaching?
from coaching,
Yeah.
from coaching or maybe even like running a practice. I know when I was in the gym, the biggest realization for me is I went from college playing to immediately college coaching,
Yeah.
and my mind was blown. And it's the same information that I was like, I had Greg Walker as a coach. So he was giving me the same thing that I was his assistant with, but like the way my brain intaked it was completely different. I'm
Yeah.
not playing in it. I'm not really worried about me doing the skill set. It was like, how can we now execute this at a high level
Yeah.
to make it work? What was that like advice? It can be from anything, from coaching to playing to.
Well, I think from the playing standpoint is that I think we get caught up, we being all athletes, you get caught up in a lot of things that you can't control, and a lot of things that maybe um, you kind of find your victimhood a little bit, right? Like it's not a I'm not playing enough, or I'm not playing the right position enough, or whatever it might be. And I know that coming from a coaching family, I remember going home, I don't know, midweek once. I live my family home was pretty close to Long Beach State. Having dinner with my dad, and my dad was very old school when it came to his advice for stuff. And I don't know what I was saying, but obviously it was coming off fairly negative about my situation at Long Beach at the time as a player. And he just, real calmly just said, "Hey, so let me get this straight. So your head coach who gets paid to win games is purposely playing someone else over you." Like, have you ever thought about, like, he has a family, he has a wife, he has kids, and he's going to sign a contract for a couple of years based on how he's winning, but he's going to keep you off the court because you could help him win because he wants to play. And he just walked me down this path. And I don't really believe in that moment I was going really that negative, but it was, he wrapped it up with saying, it sounds to me like you got to be significantly better in practice than you are. And I'm like, what, you're right. Like, so I think my advice to just the kids is that when you know that, look, there are situations, unfortunately, that happen in sports that coaches aren't perfect and they make mistakes, and maybe bad mistakes. But by and large, I'm talking about when you're spending a lot of time finding the bad in a situation or the negative in a coach or your team, your teammate, or your situation, just remember a couple of things is that one day you'll look back and what you're literally right now living in your glory days. You don't realize it, but you are. That time between 16 and 22 years old, if you happen to be able to play college, is your glory days. I mean, parks around America are filled with people playing softball under the lights. They're not at night, they're not looking to be the greatest softballer of time. They're looking for a little bit of that glory day. They're looking, glory days, and they're looking to hang out with their teammates. They're looking to compete a little bit. They're looking for that, what you get now. You just have no context, so you can't put yourself there. So realize you're in your glory days right now. You just don't know it, and embrace it, and then work harder at it. As a coach, I think that organization is absolutely everything. Being organized, having a plan for the season, planning out your entire year, as far as like on a PERT chart where it's bullets. It doesn't have to be. It can change, but having goals of where you're going, different times of the year that you need to accomplish different things. Whether it's a team, whether it's technique, whether it's culture, whether it's fundraising, it doesn't matter. But you got to have an idea of where you're going, and then constantly maintaining that schedule, and the thirst to want to get better and surround yourself with the very best people you're capable of being around. So if that means helping at a camp or volunteering or going to a coach's clinic, or maybe being a volunteer coach or being an assistant coach for some really good coaches, be around them. When you get the chance to be around greatness, take it. You're going to be a much better coach.
Going in, I know we're gonna get into the gym here in a little bit. Favorite drill, like it's like maybe whether it's the team not executing a specific drill and you just kind of want to throw something in that they know or that's gonna work. What is it?
Well, I'm a really big multi-ball fan, wash game type game. So where you can control the pace. And when I say the pace, I mean push the pace. I believe that if we can play the game with more contacts at a better rate, working harder than a normal game feels, then we can kind of settle into a normal game, and go through the ebbs and flows of a match and be ready for it. But I just think that uh, I think we spend a lot of time as coaches with crazy scoring systems. I think we've all done it. You sit up late one night creating the all-time greatest drill that has points for here and points for this and minuses for this, and there's probably a lot of good reason why you're doing it, and then you get out there and it takes you 45 minutes to explain it, and then you don't really do it very often. You did it that one day, they don't get enough opportunities to really actually even embrace the drill and get great at it. So I like setting up. I use multi balls, so maybe a 4-ball sequence goes both ways. Um, and let's just say the first ball is a serve and the second ball is a spin ball over, and then maybe it's a jump float, or maybe it's a transition ball. Whatever it is, it doesn't really matter what the sequence is, but keeping the template the same, where multi-ball drills are always a 4-ball sequence both ways. First 2 balls are serve and a spin, the last 2 are something else, and the scoring's the same. Well, you walk into my gym and we have a multi-ball drill. The only thing the guys will care about is those last 2 balls. Like, what's the tweak today? Is it transition based? Is it serve receive based? What is it? Right? And you don't have, they understand all of it and they just go right out there. So you've saved yourself some time. There's no questioning what we're doing, but you can tweak it of, hey, today's more of a blocking defense, so it's going to be based in transition, or it's going to be, the fourth or third ball is going to be an out of system ball where we have to work on 3-man blocking, or whatever it might be. So I always gravitate to that drill.
I know, right? Retirement, future AVCA Hall of Famer. Would there be any reason at all if some program came to you and be like, "Do you want to coach again?"
Well, I don't think college is where I'm going to be. To be honest with you, I mean, I learned. I I used to tell recruits all the time, because I felt like and I still feel like this. I was the luckiest coach in America. I got to coach my alma mater. So, and it was phenomenal, and I'm so fortunate to be able to do it. But I would tell all the families that, hey, I'm not going anywhere, right? And I meant that with all my heart. And then Doug Beal called me and said, hey, you want to coach the national team? And it's like, yeah, I do. So, so I took those 4 years off, and Long Beach was great. They gave me the 4-year window where I could go, and my assistant coach would be the Long Beach head coach. But I had to come back after the 4th year, or at that point I had to give it up, right?
Mhm.
Which was totally understandable. So now through the recruiting, it would say, hey, well, yeah, I plan on being here, but there's some situations that could arise. So I would answer that like this: is that I can never say never to anything. I don't know how I'll feel. I feel like right now where I'd like to be is, um, I'm doing some things internationally with all sorts of different federations right now. That's been really enjoyable. There's this incredible spike in pro volleyball happening in our country, and hopefully we can have the men be part of that too. There's just so many exciting things that I feel like I'm going to be in somewhat of a newer adventure. Uh, but you never know. But I find it hard to believe I'll be sitting back on another NCAA bench right now.
Alan, I'm so happy you were able to come out and do a clinic for us and with Champions Unlimited, which is Alan's company, right?
That's right.
And doing this for the Great Lakes region to help our coaches here in the area to expand their visual library of drills and words and all that stuff to kind of get our gyms to be at a higher level. Is there anything else that you want to mention and close up on? Anybody, any shout outs, anything that we want to kind of play homage to?
No, I do. What I would say is that I'm looking forward to doing this. I've been doing it for close to 30 years now. So Champions Unlimited is a brand to be able to get to us. You can get to us on Instagram. You can get to us on at championsunlimited.org as well. But it's for me, it's a way of giving back. I think that if you're around the things that we try to do, it's X's and O's, yes, it's drills, yes. There's all sorts of those things, but it's really catered to the group of lessons learned, of my experiences, where your struggles are, where we can meet you where you are right now. Because yeah, we can walk in and we can drop a handbook and say, hey, go, you got to do this, or we can say this is the way you got to coach. Just take everything in this, walk into your gym, and just repeat it. But that's not really what our goal is. Our goal is to help aid your journey and try to supplement areas that maybe you have some blind spots. We as coaches, we all have them. If you were a middle blocker as a coach, maybe you're not the world's greatest technical setters coach, or vice versa, right? Maybe you're a setter, and maybe middle blocking is not the easiest thing. We all have these blind spots, and if you build your staff properly, then you're trying to build a staff that takes care of some of your blind spots as well, because at the same time you're trying to get better at these areas. But it's about truly addressing your blind spots. So if you were to take kind of a sheet of paper and you were to say, you know uh, attacking, passing, setting, defense, whatever it might be, right, serving, uh, and what is it that I really believe in, like my pillars, my 3 pillars on each of these areas. And what would my team say if a coach went to talk to them without me? Like, what does coach believe about passing a float serve, or a jump serve, or attacking, or offense, or blocking, whatever? They should be able to repeat some things. They should be able to say, oh, yeah, he believes getting my platform out early, or moving my feet, or, clearing the hip, or, using the ground, or, retract with my hand, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. What is it? And if you're really honest with yourself and you fill this out, all of us are stronger in some areas than others. My advice is to take those areas that are blind spots or weaknesses and spend time there. Try to find a way to be around people who maybe do it pretty well in those areas. And you want to learn from them and you want to kind of copy theirs until you find something better or until you're the way you kind of do it and what they taught, you've created your own.
Mhm.
However, you got to fill those blind spots and you got to find ways to constantly get better. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to meet coaches where they are and try to help elevate their game.
So I know we were going to close up, but that point is awesome. When you were a college coach or when you were on the national team, did any other coaches, whether it was Division 1, Division 2, 3, a high school coach, a club coach, did anyone ever reach out to you to be like, how can I break this skill set down, like to get better? Because this is where I struggle at.
It happens all the time. And we also have an open practice policy at Long Beach, and we did with the national team. So, I believe so. I can't speak for other college programs, but I know that I would be shocked if Eric Sullivan coaching the women right now and Karch coaching the men don't have that same philosophy. And if you have the opportunity to get in there, you get in there. But yeah, people reach out all the time, and but it's not easy. Sometimes you get an email like, "Hey, I was thinking about this," to sit down and really get into a
Hmm.
long conversation about it. But you know, you do what you can. But in these situations, I find that after the camps are over, the clinics are over, and we do the question and answer, or even in the coaches sessions, are really where some amazing questions come up. Because a lot of times coaches are questioning what they think is right. I kind of do this, but this other coach I went to a clinic said this, and now you're saying this, and just helping them lead it into what they're going to leave there doing is, and I, like I've said before, I feel very strongly about a lot of the way I coach is the way is a successful way. But
You have the accolades to back it up. That's
but I also have seen in my career too many other spectacular coaches on the men's and women's side, you know, domestically and internationally, to say that there's not other ways. All you really need is buy-in from the athletes, and you're going to be successful. So it's a combination of both of those things.
absolutely loved this talk. The information, I mean, it's a gold mine. You said you were going to give us a little bit of nuggets. I think we got full chunks of ore here. So that really, really cool. Alan, again, I appreciate your time. The information you give out is very, very valuable for coaches, players, parents, even, right, that might not understand what's happening on the sidelines, to kind of see and hear that perspective. I can't wait to see you out on the court and kind of leading some of the VLA guys through some of the drills you got in mind. Again, thank you so much for your time, man.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.